Hi. You all know that this week we are talking about television. In the previous class, we talked about how the origin of television really happened way back in the early part of the 20th century and where we have come from then till now. And you all know, like, television is basically a unidirectional experience wherein we just passively receive information that's being given to us, and that's what is goes back to the early terminology for television, which is broadcasting, which actually comes from the word from agriculture, from farming, where the farmer sows the seed from one place, standing at one place. Similarly, the message is being sown to a large audience from one place, and that was the origin of broadcasting. And pretty much this model has been relatively the same in the last 75, 80 years. The first commercial broadcast in this country was started by NBC way back in 1939, and it was only black and white. But in 1954, they started the color transmission in this country. Just a quick recap of what we did the last class. So today we are going to basically talk about some of the technologies, how it influenced in the growth of television, and what the future of television looks like. Another important thing is I'll be asking a lot of questions just to make sure that you're following what I'm saying in this presentation. So by the end of this presentation, I'll be asking you at least 4 or 5 questions, and you're expected to send me the answer for that. In that way, I'll know that you're pretty much following what I'm saying. So I know it's kind of cheap, but I thought this is a way I can engage you and make sure that you're watching this presentation as such. So basically, I want to talk to you about this slide. This is pretty much one of my all-time favorite show. It's called He-Man. It usually is the transmission time is between 9:30 to 10 on Sunday mornings. I think this was a very popular show back when I was a kid in India, and we had only two channels, that is Channel One and Channel Two, and this was the broadcast on Channel One. So this is a very interesting cartoon where He-Man, he has the superpowers. He's just an ordinary guy, but then with the sword he gets his superpowers and fights the evil. And at the end of every show, he comes up with the moral of the story that you have to be good and stuff like that. I thought that was like a fascinating and interesting concept, and I used to really look forward for Sunday mornings because this is pretty much my life. Like, no, I was so passionate about if I missed one episode, and that's it. Like, no, I will be kind of so mad. So that's how television had an impact on me from an early age. You won't even believe I didn't have access to television because my family couldn't afford for television. So we used to go to our neighbor's place who are very rich and who had access to television. And sometimes we used to pay like 5 cents or 10 cents to let them watch our favorite television show. So that's how the model used to be back in India. But then I still remember so clearly when my father got my first color television with a remote control. I thought, like, man, this is the best thing ever. And still, how kind of these kind of technologies play such a crucial role. And right now, I think any kid who's got a TV at home, I think they wouldn't be really so very happy about it. And again, this again is from a cultural context. I'll get back to this slide at some point in the future, just to kind of give you a reference that oh, television is kind of an integral part of many people's life. And as you all know, we've been discussing in the class about measuring television ratings and stuff like that. At Nielsen, AC Nielsen market research company, they got into this business way back in the mid 1940s and 50s, and they started their measuring radio measurements in 1947 and television measurements in 1950, and pretty much. They kind of find out how the content is there in terms of the quantity and the quality of the viewers, and they pretty much try to kind of track and rate prime time viewing, and it's pretty much it gives a kind of estimate of what the viewers are watching, to advertisers, to local radio stations, and to potential broadcast networks. So these are some of the things that the rating system does. So what the Nielsen pretty much does is they use electronic metering as well as journaling, wherein they claim that they have close to 2 million journals spread across the large and suburban and rural places across this country. And they also kind of collect the data every 2 or 3 months, on in February, May and September and stuff like that. So they try to kind of make it or look, they've got a very scientific approach in terms of data collection of the consumers or the audience behavior in terms of radio listening and television watching in this country. So pretty much we discussed in the last class that that NCIS is one of the top watched programs in this country. So yeah, they are also trying to kind of get measure the people's ratings in terms of computer viewing, in terms of tablet usage, and in many other areas. So right now we are discussing more about their television viewing patterns of the audience in this country. And in a recent study, they found out that on average, we spend about 5 hours and 11 minutes watching television, and this is pretty much for an average person. And also they also able to give exactly the demographic in terms of the race, age, and the class of people who are watching certain programs at certain times. Here they say they're giving the breakup for whites and blacks and Hispanics and Asians television viewing habits. And this as of based on this, which it looks like African Americans spend a lot of time overall in front of the television sets. And it's this also pretty interesting statistic where they say that close to we spend about 9 years watching television. That's a long time. Man. Seriously, we take things for granted, but imagine like 5 hours every day, and that totals up to close to 9 years in a person's lifetime. So that's a lot of lifetime, and that's the reason there's a lot of interest among social scientists and academic academicians to find out research how television can impact our lives. And again, this is also interesting statistics which we also discussed in class, that the 99% of American households has at least one television. And imagine, look at the other statistics, 65% have more than three or more televisions. What are you doing with so many television sets at home? Yeah, seriously. And I mean, and once upon a time, it used to be a necessity, but now it looks like, sorry, once upon a time, it used to be more like a luxury, but right now, it's more of an accessory in many of the households. And again, this also is a pretty interesting insight that, 56% of Americans pay for cable television. So there's still a lot of chunk of people who are ready to spend a lot of money for their cable television viewing experience or television viewing experience as such. And this is again a very important slide. In a recent survey done during March 2015, they found out that Netflix remains seems to be the king in terms of broadband usage during peak traffic hours in America. 37% of peak traffic broadband usage can be attributed for using Netflix. So a lot of people are spending the time watching Netflix in this country, especially during peak traffic hours. I mean, with combined YouTube, Hulu, Amazon, and Facebook combined together, they're not even coming close to Netflix. So this again is just an kind of example of how much of personalized and customized experience is in demand in this country. And this is pretty much a kind of a blueprint that the television people are also trying to cash in their future content expansion, and that is what we are going to watch in the days to come, how television is going to be more interactive. And so far we see that it's been only unidirectional, at least 90% of the times. But in the future, they are trying to kind of understand the impact of implementing the interactive feature into the audience experience, to so as to kind of get their attention. And I think I also want to kind of quickly introduce the slide which I introduced in the beginning of the class. Again, very, very important infographic to kind of that kind of tells us how long it took for a technological mass media or a device to reach the audience. This telephone took about 75 years to reach a base of 50 million subscribers. On the contrary, a television took about only 13 years to reach 50 million users. You also remember the slide from the last class. Around the beginning of 50s, it was only 6.2% of household which had access to television sets. By 1960s, close to 90.2% had access to television. So that pretty much is just a figure to kind of tell us that the impact of television within a short span. But as you go by, you see, it took only about 35 days for an app to reach 50 million. But the pace of change is still changing so fast. So I want you to introduce to another slide where it kind of gives you a recap of what it took for a radio to reach 50 million listeners and TV to reach 50 million viewers. But you see, Facebook added 100 million users in less than 9 months, and iPhone application hit 1 billion in 9 months. See, so that's a kind of a big stride going from million to billion. And this again is just an example of what the future looks like in store for future technology. And again, this again was a recent article that I saw. I wanted to share with you that the recent Super Bowl, the 50th Super Bowl, it drew close to 111.9 million television viewers. That's a big chunk here. I mean, imagine the population of America is like close to like 325 million, and close to like 111 million were watching Super Bowl. So that kind of connects the audience. As we have discussed, that television can also unify the community as such. So this again is an example of how one event can connect the whole nation. And another interesting aspect is about the tweets. 16.9 million tweets within that brief time of the Super Bowl game. So again, it shows how the connection that happens between the television and the social media, and how it's all kind of interconnected. People want to express what they felt about the game and stuff like that, and that's the result. You see the 16.9 million tweets. So again, this all again brings back to another thing, like, if people are watching TV, what are they doing with their telephones and cell phones and other stuff? So again, are they really looking or watching the ads or the program that they're watching on television? And that again, Nielsen recently found during a survey that 60% of the people start focusing attention to their cell phones once the ad pops up on the television. So again, this kind of technology is kind of good in a way, but also how it kind of takes away the experience of the person who's kind of interacting with a technological device. That's again kind of a big question mark. So we see that how everything is kind of interconnected. Even though television as an experience used to be only unidirectional, but now people are trying to kind of connect their experience with the television and share with their friends through social media and with the society as in the sense. And I think this is what the future of television is going to be. Earlier, it used to be only a family experience where people used to gather in front of television to watch their favorite serials and movies and stuff like that. But now it's going to be more of people connecting with their loved ones through video conferencing and connecting with people from around the world. And I just want to go back to my first slide when I told you when I was super excited when my dad got my first color television with the remote control where you can just sit in one place and flip the channel. Even though I had only two channels at that time, but right now we have close to like 1,000 channels at a person's disposal. And again, this again is a remarkable technological advance. But again, everything seems to be changing in the days to come, wherein they want to get off this remote control, wherein you can change the channels by your gestures, and pretty much you can do whatever you want with your gestures or with your voice recognition capabilities, which will be incorporated as sensors within the television sets as such. So you see a kind of a shift that's happening within the television infrastructure. It is just not receiving just transmission signals and transmitting to us. It is also kind of making the audience interact with the television set itself. So that again is a very big factor. We just I think they're still pretty much in the experimental stage, but we can see that happening in the days to come. And again, I think many of you must be familiar with this. It's also called EPG. It's an electronic programming guide, wherein you kind of have kind of idea like what are the channels, what are the programs, or what is it all about. But one of the things about television is that once you miss a certain program, like it's from 9:30 to 10:30, and there's no way you can watch this. But right now it's again changed. This aspect is kind of made easy by the use of DVR in many situations or set-top boxes. But they're also planning to incorporate something called television cloud. So imagine you missed a program just by like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. You can always go back to the beginning of the program without a DVR, wherein you can use the television content from the cloud and watch it and stuff like that. And again, this again is completely a paradigm shift in terms of television experience, because when I missed my favorite 9:30 He-Man show on a Sunday morning, there is no way I can watch it again. I have to wait till the next week to watch. But right now, people don't have the time at their disposal, so they pretty much want something instantaneous and quick. And there's no way that people can miss the content. There can be some avenues or ways to stream the content for the audience, and that seems to be the future in terms of the EPG. I think the EPG whole concept will become a uh, kind of null, because I guess when it all becomes cloud, it becomes like access anytime. And again, that takes away the beauty of television experience. At least that's in my opinion. And again, there is another big concept which is yet to be tapped, that I think is called the T-commerce. Again, e-commerce, you must be familiar, or if people buy online. But how people or agencies or companies want to connect with their audiences through their programs. Again, Biggest Loser is an example where people want to lose weight, and if people want to lose weight and trying to connect the products to the audience through their advertising within the television will be the norm in the days to come. It is yet to catch up in a big way, but I think pretty much it's going to be the norm in the days to come. And again, it seems to be that there needs to be more kind of personalized content in terms of television, and depending upon the time and mood and weather, it can also prompt you what possible movies or shows or series that you can watch. And again, this again enhances the whole television interactive experience, wherein television is just not giving the content that you need, but also understands your mentality, your environment, your kind of state of being, and what your friends are watching. They're pretty much able to kind of get an understanding of what you might possibly like, and dish out content that you will kind of enjoy and appreciate, and what's being given to you. So this again is some of the things that is there for television viewers. the years to come. And I think the future of TV is apps, and that's what Apple claims to be. They are trying to kind of enhance their experience through apps. As you all know, they kind of revolutionized the music industry through iTunes, and they also want to do the same or replicate the same results through television as well. So they're trying to kind of come up with their own new series, own new shows, own new originals, like Netflix did with House of Cards and stuff like that. So again, apps seems to be some of the most buzzword that's kind of they want to integrate within the television experience. There are some countries where they're trying to kind of use like successful shows like The Voice into an app experience, wherein the users can play with the or play with the contestants and kind of connect the audience with the player. So a lot of things are pretty much in an experimental stage, and we can reap, at least see the benefits of the intersection of these so many different technologies in the days to come, and how it can overall enhance our television viewing experience. So gone are the days when television used to be unidirectional. It is giving us more of an interactive experience, wherein the content is not pushed to us, or rather it's kind of pulling the audience. This kind of audience is being pulled towards the television in a different ways, and we just have to wait and watch what all this technologies has got in store for us to enhance our television viewing experience. So I've got like 4 5 questions for you. So my first question will be, in terms of the present sorry, in terms of the Nielsen survey, what is the average time spent by a person in front of television, and which ethnic groups spend a lot of time in front of television, and what is the average time that a person spend in front of television in his or her lifetime? These 3 questions. And my second question will be, in terms of broadband usage, which is the number one, I would say, brand that takes up a lot of broadband usage during peak traffic, and what is the amount of what is the amount of broadband width usage that particular company or brand is taking? And to rephrase the question, which is the number one company that kind of utilizes the peak traffic broadband usage in this country? And my second question is, we discussed about the pace of change, how it took for some mass media to reach 15 million. My question is, how long did iPhone applications take to reach 1 billion numbers? So my question is, how much did iPhone application, how long did iPhone application take to reach 1 billion downloads? And my second question is, we spoke about some of the new future of television, and we discussed about many things. I want you to kind of identify at least three of the topics that I discussed in terms of the future of television. And that's pretty much it. And I think if you're able to answer this and upload it in Dropbox, it'll be great. And I know it's been a long stuff, but I think we just have to find a way to kind of understand the overall importance of the future of television. And I got also another quick announcement. I also have a group project that's kind of due. We're going to discuss about this class in detail about a media analysis paper, and I just want you to kind of you to be getting ready for this media analysis paper. We'll discuss about my expectations and what I'm kind of the time frame I want for this project. I think we will decide in the class when we meet on Monday. So you all have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday.